voodoo, Macumba. The very words call up images of malignant witches sticking pins in dolls, of evil sorcerers raising devils in dark, secret graveyard rites, of naked, hysterical black savages holding wild, erotic orgies by firelight. For years, these sects were persecuted. They have grown to proportions of national religions. Yes, voodoo and Brazilian Macumba are religions, with dual African and Christian roots, and often work as therapy for millions of people in Latin America and the Caribbean islands. We shall see something of these Afro-spirit religions in Brazil, where they help white as well as black, educated as well as unlettered, find peace and solace in our troubled modern world. This is Brazil today. We are in the southeast region, which includes Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo. This is the wealthiest area of Brazil, but displays sharp contrast between the rich and the poor. The luxurious condominiums at the beaches are surrounded by sprawling, congested slums on the hillsides, and like the rest of the country, suffers from spiraling inflation and vast unemployment. Although Brazil appears at first to be a paradise of racial harmony, with persons of African, American Indian, and European descent mingling equally, on closer inspection, it reveals great inequalities. In general, people with lighter complexions enjoy higher social positions, while darker persons are poorer and of lower classes. Christ the Redeemer is a towering symbol of the largest Catholic country in the world. Thousands of believers who have faith in miracle cures visit this Lourdes shrine. People practice a personal Catholicism expressed in promises and devotions to saints. It is often difficult to grasp what spirituality means in Brazil. It is felt in the depths of the self and represents one's worth and dignity. Although 90% of Brazilians declare themselves Roman Catholic, spiritist religions are an extremely powerful force in the country. More than half of the people participate in them. There are more than 40,000 registered centers in Rio de Janeiro alone. These cults form a continuum from the most African forms to the European type of Kardecian spiritism.
We are a Catholic family, my mother and all of the children. I received my first communion when I was 7, but my mother had an obsession, a spiritual obsession, without knowing anything about spiritism. She had no knowledge of it at all. She had her first manifestation in a church in Pilares, St. Benedict Church. When I was just a child accompanying my mother, the priest said to me, "Your mother's case is Macumba." This expression is used by Catholics to talk about black magic. But we didn't understand. Since she was feeling bad, we found a spiritist center. When we arrived here, we found that it was a purely Kardecian center. My mother became a medium and began to work at the table. She was completely cured. Today I lead this group.
Spiritism is based on communication with the dead and the belief in reincarnation. Kardecian spiritism is always conducted around a table where the mediums concentrate and go into trance to receive their spirit guides or protectors. It is based on the codification of a 19th century French school teacher whose nom de plume was Allan Kardec and whose Book of the Spirits is still a bestseller in Brazil. Mesmer's notion of animal magnetism is important in spiritism. He held that sickness and health were controlled by the balance of a universal invisible fluid in the human body. This fluid is felt as vibrations or sensations by people as they go into trance and can be interpreted in different ways. For Mesmer, it was a magnetic force in the hands. For Kardec, it was due to the action of spirits, and in modern science, in medical hypnosis, it is seen as the power of the mind. Yet millions of people still believe in the invisible world of spirits with all of the individual characteristics, motives, and passions they had in life. These mediums are receiving their guides, spirits of illustrious dead doctors, lawyers, or teachers. There are also imperfect spirits characterized by malice, envy, prejudice, and hypocrisy. Illness or bad fortune is caused by molesting spirits and may be related to karma or the former lifetimes, the neglect of obligations, evil eye, or the need to develop one's mediumship. People come with all kinds of problems such as cerebral palsy, mental illnesses, or unemployment.
This girl has been spontaneously possessed by a wild Umbanda spirit and needs training to develop her mediumship.
These developed mediums have already studied Kardec's doctrine, have received their spirit guides, and can limit unwanted spirit possessions. Some mediums can expel the cause of a problem. They take the spirit into themselves and then expel it.
You have a message for us. I want to get out of the fire. The fire. Powerful Father, the creator of heaven and earth. Jesus Christ, Son of our Lord, people are conceived from the high spirits.
Louvado seja nosso Senhor Jesus Cristo. Louvado seja nosso Senhor Jesus Cristo. Louvado seja nosso Senhor Jesus.
One or more of the clients present may interpret this problem as his or her own and accept the medium's expulsion of the spirit as a resolution to the problem. Believes in reincarnation, possession, and the curing powers of magnetic hand passes, together with the Catholic and Amerindian elements, are all blended into the more African forms of spirit religions, such as Umbanda, which has been called the national religion in Brazil.
A Umbanda, Aum divino, Banda força. A Umbanda quer dizer força divina.
Umbanda means divine force. The entities who come to possess mediums come to practice charity, the obligation to help one's neighbor.
Aqui nós praticamos o que se chama a Umbanda limpa.
Here we practice what we call clean Umbanda, not that Umbanda at the crossroads where they use goats and sheep. We don't do that here. You have already seen that our spiritual mentor is St. Anthony from Padua. It's not only that he is Anthony of Padua, that is not that important. He is a saint of the church because when he was incarnated, he had an advanced evolutionary level. All mediums are Catholic.
Catholicism and Spiritism do not conflict. Since plantation times, the African gods of the slaves were celebrated at the Catholic altars of their masters, and eventually they were equated with saints based on similar mythologies and characteristics. For example, St. George, killing the dragon with his iron spear, was identified with Ogum, an African god of war and iron. Along with air-conditioned banks and shopping centers with the latest consumer lures are the Macumba shops. Similar to botanicas in Hispanic neighborhoods in the United States, they sell plaster statues of the Orishas, the Yoruban gods and goddesses, Catholic figures, herbs, cowrie shells, glass bead necklaces, alligator teeth, and all the paraphernalia you need to perform spiritual obligations. The major Umbanda supernatural entities are also present. The Indian, the old black slave, and the prankster Eshus. The last one is an ambiguous spirit representing both good and evil, who has a female counterpart in the sensual Bombajira. The mixture of Catholic and African elements is seen in this celebration on the birth date of Saints Cosmos and Damien. They are equated with the African twins Ibeji. Children receive candy on this day, and Umbandists deposit their offerings, candy, cakes, rum, and flowers. In the Copacabana section of Rio de Janeiro, 3 generations of the same family participate in Umbanda ceremonies. Moacir, a lawyer, his daughter Beche, a school teacher, and her husband Raul, a bank clerk, have busy lives. 3 days a week, they go to the Umbanda Center. Raul and his family have been participating for more than 30 years. He met Beche there, and they were married in the center.
Não é propriamente casamento, é uma união que se faz.
Moacir began his mediumship just 10 years ago when he gave some friends a lift to the center, and while there was spontaneously possessed by his Indian guide. The central ritual activity begins when mediums go into trance through stimulation to all of their senses, from the music, incense, and intense concentration. The mediums are receiving their strong and forthright Indian guides who like to smoke cigars and drink cachaça. In Moacir's own words,
there is consciousness. The Indian is completely conscious of everything we are doing or saying. He transmits through us a greater force than our own. We don't have the strength to do what we want to do. We are at the command of another consciousness within us that makes us do certain things which are not habitual, such as smoking cigars.
The music is playing for different orishas, or African gods. Each medium has his or her own orisha protector. Moacir is son of Agum, the god of war, and Beche is daughter of Yemansha, the goddess of the sea. The processions take place in an orderly fashion. First, the chief receives his Indian guide, next the mediums with the highest status, and then the less experienced mediums and novices. Everyone is possessed by Indians simultaneously. Some people may experience visions, hallucinations, or clairvoyant phenomena and be encouraged to develop mediumship. They are told to attend sessions regularly. First, they are given a physical exam by the doctor who works in the center. If they are in good health, they are taught to go into trance. This is one of the principal induction techniques. Applying the understandings of hypnotic trance of Dr. Milton Erickson and his colleagues Hilton Lopez and David Eckstein to the trance dancing, mediums learn to function at multiple levels of awareness, liberating repressed emotional tensions and breaking habitual patterns of conscious thinking, which may often lead to healing, creativity, and personal growth. Together with group support and prestige in the group, these mediums make a new way of life. The awkwardness shown at the beginning disappears as novices practice going into trance and receiving their spirit guides. Some mothers may look askance at children participating in these activities, fearing contamination by evil influences or loss of control. On the contrary, children learn to enjoy these ceremonies. Most importantly, they learn to go into altered states of consciousness in a supportive setting, which in the future can help them if they should get sick or have a problem. The second major supernatural entity in Umbanda is the old black slave. As Benjamin, the spiritual head of this center, takes his place on a low bench, he receives his Papa Roberto, who likes to smoke a pipe and sip red wine. The old slaves are known for their patience, indulgence, and gentle fatherly scoldings.
Coming out of Senor Tupan, my guide is a noise. Then a fall to the floor on the knees with one inside the other. He beats the floor twice with the hand open and 3 times with the hand closed. They are strong blows, even violent enough to injure the hand. With this, the recovery is complete.
The other mediums are being transformed from Indians to old slaves. In contrast to his possession by the Indian, now Moasir is conscious of nothing, not even of the lines of people waiting to consult Papa Jose, his old black slave, for diagnosis and treatment of illnesses, and for his advice on such problems as how to win back philandering mates or get jobs.
I don't like to call these consultations because we are not doctors. We simply give advice as to what people should do to better their spiritual and material lives. They look for jobs and they don't know what to do with all this desperation we are experiencing today. So we raise their morale. The old blacks have this objective since they are very much allied to the material world.
While people are consulting the old blacks, the third major entity in Umbanda appears. This is the child entity, equated with the Ibeji twins in the African pantheon, and Saints Cosmos and Damien in the Catholic pantheon. Earlier, we saw the offerings to this supernatural entity on the beach. This other self displays the innocence and playfulness of a child and loves to eat candy. This youngster enjoys his meeting with Papa Roberto with the same exuberance an American child would feel visiting his indulgent grandpa. The comforting warmth and patience of the old slaves provide solace from the stresses in everyday life.
I feel that weight, such a heavy weight, that once I am on my knees, as much as I want to, I can't get up. It's like I'm carrying something on my shoulders. Although the possession of the old one is easy, coming out of it is a horrible thing. I think that my head will leave my body. I begin to feel weak. Now, the children are another story. They just say goodbye. With the Indian, the entrance and departure are equal. We feel tired physically, but with a rested head. I have the impression of it being a little like a catharsis. You know, you get everything bad out and bring within a great deal of peace and tranquility.
Often advice can be offered and be followed with less resistance during the possession by a guide. Moacir can interact on another level with his daughter and grandson, making him more effective in getting them to follow his wishes.
Sacode a poeira da sua saia, sacode a poeira da sua saia, sacode a poeira da sua saia. Mas quando eu vai embora, sacode a poeira da sua saia.
Moacir has been in trance for more than 8 hours, although you have seen only a small part of it. During this time, his black slave Papa Jose has given advice to hundreds of people, helping to resolve their problems.
The possession of the old black leaves a person very well. In spite of it being slow and difficult for the medium, it leaves a person feeling very well afterwards.
Se a lua brilha no céu clareia Umbanda.
The possession by the old black makes me feel very differently from the one by the Indian. In the possession by the old black, instead of feeling vibrations in the upper region, I feel it in both of my legs. My legs begin to get cold and a kind of pain comes into the knee and ends up knocking me on the floor. Upon feeling knocked down on the floor, I am nearly unconscious. I don't have the ability to reason, to talk for myself, to know people. I have a certain lack of consciousness in my work as the old black.
The two processions are totally different. Not at all similar. For example, with the Indian, the hand begins to tremble, tremble. It keeps trembling, 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 until I feel the vibrations and fall to the knees. With the old black, I don't feel anything. Then it seems that I turn off, then bam, bam, I'm on the floor.
As for coming out of the old black, it is very difficult. It really hurts when he leaves the medium. After, you feel a pleasant sensation, as if you had come out of a sauna. You feel very tranquil, serene, without pain or preoccupations.
The fourth major entity in Umbanda is the Shu, who is often associated with black magic or the devil. This medium on the floor has captured the wicked Eshu, who was possessing this client in order to expel her problem. This ambiguous spirit can represent good or evil. It may be the spirit of someone who committed suicide or led a wicked life and hangs around making mischief for everyone. Or as in the case here, there are good Eshus who have the power to expel the bad ones. Eshu's favors are sought after because it is he who opens and closes the doors of destiny. This Eshu is guardian of the cemetery, identified by his hands. The female counterpart of Eshu is the flirtatious Bombajita, who likes perfume, flowers, and jewelry, and makes off-color jokes and sensual advances. Possession by her permits the traditional Latin American woman to behave in ways unacceptable in everyday life. Bombajita may also possess a man, making it acceptable for him to play a female. A client may also be spontaneously possessed by Bombajita, which allows her to indulge in erotic, enticing behaviors. Her Eshu is expelled, but she will be encouraged to develop her mediumship. It has been said that the sensual and aggressive prankster Eshus, together with the stern and forthright Indians, the patient and indulgent old slaves, and the playful and innocent children, provide a well-rounded personality. The beliefs and practices of spiritist religions are used by some medical professionals with their patients and seem to produce beneficial results. Some of the doctors are spiritists themselves and belong to a movement of spiritist medicine in Latin America. These doctors believe that 90% of mental illnesses and many other problems are spiritually caused. Therefore, they use spiritist techniques in their therapy. One such doctor is Eliezer Mendez, a psychiatrist trained in medicine in Bahia. He is treating 20 patients here with spiritist techniques. They are suffering from epilepsy, schizophrenia, drug addiction, and other illnesses. He begins with a series of exercises to induce trance, many of which you saw in Umbanda. His technique is called de-obsession, as in Kardecian spiritism. It permits mediums, or sensitives as he calls them, to capture the patient's problem and expel it. He claims to treat epileptics without medication using this technique. According to Mendez, psychosis is a permanent trance. We take them out of uncontrollable trance and put them into physiologically controllable trance.
girando, girando.
This 25-year-old boy has been diagnosed as a schizophrenic drug addict. He has spent the last 10 years in and out of a mental hospital. He used to go into periodic rages and break everything in the house. This medium received the spirit, causing the boy's aggression. The therapy is like an ethno drama, where the different negative forces of the boy's personality, the aggressive, the self-destructive, the hurtful, are acted out before him and then banished symbolically. According to the boy's mother, he was an animal, and after spiritist therapy, he became a human being. These religions have recently moved into American cities like New York and Miami. Doña Julia is a spiritist who came to New York City from Puerto Rico nearly 40 years ago. She still preserves the spiritist traditions in the privacy of her own home, where family and friends come to consult her for all kinds of problems, nervousness, alcoholism, marriage difficulties, as well as physical complaints. This client is consulting her about his difficulties in sleeping and his problems with his wife. Her spirit guide tells him that he has an obsession and that he will be rid of the evil and melancholy. She advises him to stay with this woman as God has united them. The guide assures him that no one but God can speak in his mind.
The doctor gave me the pills. I took them, but those pills the doctor gave me didn't do a thing. The only thing that worked for me was what you did.
On that occasion, my husband was going out with this woman, you know. And for me, I mean, my belief is that, you know, there's a lot of evil. And most of the evil people do it with some kind of powders, you know. And for me, the woman had put the evil in my husband's pocket, you know, for me to turn crazy in my apartment. Nothing, I didn't feel like nothing, just crying, and I looked like a crazy person, you know. I didn't comb my hair or anything. And I came here, when I went out of here, you know, I came pale and everything. When I went out of here, I was nice and pink, you know, natural pink, and I felt beautiful after that.
As in Brazil, mediums are possessed by spirit guides of African, American Indian, Oriental, and European descent. Only the names differ. For example, instead of old slaves, they are called madamas or congos. In this cozy, supportive setting, People can go into trance and play other selves, thus practicing self-help therapy to cope with their problems. We have tried to show that Afro-spirit religions are not witchcraft, but important cultural expressions of history, which provide therapy for millions of people, and their techniques are already being integrated by some therapists.